on the broadcasts.
Is anyone going to monitor comment?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I actually have it on the stream. Everybody's chats from all the different sources will go onto the stream. I put my Restream.io chat window on there.
All right, I'm going to pause and get started.
Yeah, just roll anytime.
Welcome to the Iracers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. Iracers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Hey everyone, happy early Halloween.
Hey, David Hall.
Hi.
Kyle Pendergraft.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, happy Halloween. On the show this week, we review the release of the updated Phoenix Raceway just in time for Championship Week. Monday Night Racing adds more high-profile drivers, and we'll discuss the trials of a professional esports sim racer.
And remember, you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself all of the great topics and products we'll discuss by visiting iracerslounge.com and selecting show notes. Hope to see you there.
Grid Finder 2.0 is bigger and better than ever with more ways to narrow your search for your next sim racing league. Featuring over 1,000 leagues from over 25 racing sims across every platform, your place on the grid is just a couple clicks away. Visit www.grid-finder.com to find a league or to upload your own. Grid Finder is the home of online sim racing leagues. And just want to take a moment and mention this is the last episode of our sponsorship with Grid Finder. It's been a little bit over a year, and it's been fantastic to have them as part of our show and to talk about their product and just to get the awareness out there about, hey, this is how you can find some leagues. But it's been great working with Tom, and we certainly welcome them back sometime and in the future. So don't make sure to check those guys out.
Well, we don't have a guest this week, so Brian, you're going to kick us off with the first topic.
Yeah, this is not a great story to start off with in a certain point of view, but it's something everybody should be aware of. It comes from iRacing staffer Susan Flint, and she posted in the forums that if you guys see any offers to purchase anything iRacing related, such as iRacing dollars or credits outside of the iRacing website from a verified iRacing email, please do not participate. These are not legitimate offers, and iRacing is currently they're investigating a potential scam on Discord from a channel called iRacing Store. So anything that comes, even if it's from a verified iRacing email, do not participate in it. That's not how they're really running their sales and stuff like that. Just a couple reminders is never give out any personal information such as your login information, email address, or passwords, or give out any credit card information. iRacing would only ask for the last 4 digits to investigate billing issues or anything like that. So be really careful out there. I mean, that just doesn't go with iRacing. With any emails that you guys get, make sure you do your research and do your homework that this stuff is real. There's just so many scams out there, and apparently iRacing and iRacing World has not been immune to this type of deal.
Yeah, surely it's an issue if they're communicating to the community about it, that people have been swindled, and then they contact iRacing support and try to get their money back, and probably can't do it because they didn't give their money to iRacing. So I think that's important to know who you're doing business with. Now, I do want to point out this is specifically related to credits and dollars and for the iRacing product. I still think that if you buy a T-shirt or a hat that says iRacing, those are hosted on third-party websites. They don't offer that directly. So I think I was even watching a YouTube today on iRacing's channel and noticed they have T-shirts for sale through Teespring, which is the YouTube T-shirt mechanism. And but yeah, so yeah, be careful.
Well, it looks like we're going to beat the same horse again that we beat to death last week. There's a lot of angst in the forums over the Phoenix track being retired. And I mean, I could say the same things, but I don't know if it's necessary. The track is not that different other than the orientation change. And it's an update, so everybody's basically keeping the content they already had. They're just updating it.
Yeah, and there's, when we talked last week, it had just, been announced and we were talking about it, and now a week has gone by and there's certainly a forum thread about it. And as you read through the thread, it's really just questions about why is what I see, or speculation about why. And there's lots of speculation. I think the biggest one that most people mentioned was licensing. Is this a licensing issue of for some reason? I'd even asked in the forums to an admin, hey, maybe you can just pipe in and tell us why, and that would probably calm down a little bit of the speculation. But at this point, I don't think we know, except, the most common consensus may be it's just pretty much the same track.
It may just be a point where they've decided that they have too much legacy content, and they're going to, in some cases, when they see fit, they're going to go ahead and pull it out. Because one thing I did read in the forum is that they are adding all of the new back-end stuff to the legacy tracks, so that any of the dynamic tracking or tire modeling and stuff, that is actually still being maintained. So the more legacy tracks they keep, and there is already a legacy Phoenix, the more legacy tracks they keep, the more work there is for content that's going to get raced a little. All right, there's a couple of novelty leagues, but for the most part, that not that many people are going to be jumping on the 2008 Phoenix very often.
Right. Now we got teaser video and pictures. Now the pictures. Now when I first saw these on my iPhone Mac, 10s Max, it looked like a real picture. I mean, it looks like the real Phoenix. And in fact, the screenshot that they presented with the green cactus, looking down onto the start-finish line, that's pretty much where my seats were last time I was out there. I mean, I sat literally in the same spot that camera angle is from. So it looks very, very familiar. Every advertisement, everything is exactly the same.
So I haven't gotten the update just yet, so I haven't really had the chance to really peruse around. Did you guys have a chance to look through it yet?
Oh yeah, I got on it today and ran some laps. My first reaction is it doesn't feel like the same track, especially down, I guess, with the new backstretch or the old front stretch. It feels wider. It is wider, I think. And I don't know. It just feels like the transitions are smoother, or I don't, it is the same, but it just it felt different. I mean, it's certainly familiar to the other one, but yeah, there's quite a bit of change. The walls are different colors and I think taller. So it just looks a lot different. Now, I took the time to go looking for Dale and Steve Myers, trying to identify where they might be on track. I never did find them, but I did send you guys some pictures of what I did find. Did you guys see those?
Yes, yeah, I did. It looks like there's a couple of anomalies in there that need to be patched up a little bit.
Not too bad. I mean, there were a few light poles in the infield that were kind of floating above ground. When I went around the back of the grandstands, which I'm very familiar with too, some of the escalators were like sunk down into the pavement kind of thing, and So the ground wasn't really lining up real well with everything else. The motorhomes were kind of buried into the ground, the bottom part of their tire. And so just little stuff like that. The fan tunnel that goes under the track into the infield doesn't even exist on the outside of the track. They do have it modeled on the inside of the track, but it's closed off. They did model helicopters both out of the track and in the track. And I was wondering, is that the first time they've modeled a helicopter in iRacing?
I haven't seen one before, so I would care to say it probably is.
The other thing I noticed is the vegetation on the Rattlesnake Hill was pretty ridiculous kind of looking. I mean, it was a real flat, vegetation where if you looked at it from the side, it has no depth to it. I thought with the new tree model that maybe that would look a little more realistic, but apparently those are two different things.
So, is your impression that this was rushed in any way, or you just think it was just like little minor things that they just got to work the kinks out of? It's we're seeing it more and more often where they're releasing new content or updated content in the middle of seasons and not waiting for the end. A lot of it I know has to do with the timing of particular races and stuff like that. But do you feel like it was rushed in any way?
No, because everything from a driving perspective is done. Everything I just mentioned is outside of the track, outside the fence, basically. So it's artistic. It's just stuff that you wouldn't see unless you're out of the car and you're looking around like I am, flying around like a bird with the Control F12 and the WASD buttons.
You wonder if some of that stuff wouldn't be a little bit better if this was a Coke Series race, that gets a lot more high profile and stuff like that. They seem to take a little extra time on and doing updates and making everything as pretty as possible for those types of races.
One thing I was expecting, Brian, isn't there a track where you can see the skyline of the city in the distance? I think it might be Chicago.
That might be. I'm not 100% sure.
But this would have been a perfect time to do that too, because if you're standing on Rattlesnake Hill or in the stands about from the halfway up or higher, you can see downtown Phoenix and the big high rises several miles off in the distance. And, even though they didn't model anything really outside of the track, it might be cool just to have that out there, so if you're plopped down in a stand, you would see it. I think I've seen that before at a different track, that kind of artwork. But because it's not, affecting, as you're driving, I'm sure it's something that they could add later, or they're planning on adding later, or maybe they consider it done, which is fine with me. I wouldn't call it undone. Well, how about the video? They did put out a YouTube of it as well. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's their typical, really high quality type of introduction videos that we've been accustomed to seeing. And you see a variety of different cars on there, not just NASCAR. You see some IRL stuff on there as well. So it's really cool watching. It does seem like it's a very smooth track from what I remember from the original. I don't know if that's just the way that they did it, but it seemed like a nice smooth track that the cars are driving on. And it's still for me so weird to drive that backstretch and not see the flag stand on that long straightaway as they're driving past it.
Yeah, it is odd. And I did try to drive into the garages, like through the openings and pit wall, and it just stops you, even though it looks like you can drive in there. It's like a wall. I damaged my car. But that big part where they have the O'Reilly logo and they do all the, pre-race festivities and stuff, you can actually drive onto that part. So you just go to the right off of pit road there, and just kind of drive through the wall opening, and you can drive in there. And I was doing donuts on the O'Reilly logo, and you can drive around in there.
Now, the Phoenix that this one replaced had some rallycross track in it too. Does this one have that?
That's a good question. I didn't even look.
I'll check and tell you in a sec.
Because this replaces the existing Phoenix, right? So the current Legacy one's gone, and the one that was before this is now the new Legacy, right? So maybe it's just the Rallycross is just in the Legacy version.
Well, when I hit test, it just says oval.
The old Legacy is still the old. Kept the old Legacy.
Okay.
If we're saying what version 3 now, version 2 is what went away. Version 1.
Okay. So then, the Rallycross was tied to the version 2 that this replaced.
I'm looking now. The Rallycross is associated with 2008 version, which is version 1. It shows oval, road course, and Rallycross on the 2008. And then when I go to the new Phoenix, it's just oval with open dogleg and oval. Guess what does it mean? What's the difference between those two? Oval and oval with open dogleg.
They have cones set up on the dogleg. Sorry, David.
The cones are actual.
Well, in the previous version, for OBRL, we used to race where the dogleg was not open, and they would have cones lined up, just inside of the dog leg where you had to stay to the right of. You would get a penalty if you dropped too far down and knocked down a bunch of cones. So that was the two different versions, and I'm assuming that they've done some version of that on this new one.
This is going to be a fun race. I'm looking forward to it. Remember, full distance next week for NIS. Final race of the year, and boy, after Martinsville and Kansas, man, anything looks better than those two. Let's keep going and talk other schedule changes perhaps that might affect us next year in NIS and beyond. Brian.
Yeah, this came from a tweet from Adam Stern, the reporter, NASCAR reporter, and he posted on his tweet that NASCAR has hinted that it's going to strip poor performing tracks of the races in the coming years, and it's preparing to invest heavily in new ideas like a street race. So, and they actually talked a little bit about this on DBC, on Door Bumper Clear podcast, that, they're even thinking about posting like a 2030 future schedule of what a NASCAR schedule might look like, and so it looks like they're going to be looking closely at tracks that aren't performing very well attendance-wise and such, and maybe think about making some changes. The street courses, the street races, we know they've talked about. We've covered it, and iRacing has the one in Detroit, right? Or is it Chicago? I can't remember, but it's Chicago, right? And so street races, they definitely been looking to that, and it might be something that comes to pass and starts bumping off some poor performing tracks.
It's all about money. It always is. And remember how the money is structured in NASCAR, where the tracks are getting a big chunk of that money. And so if they have 2 dates versus one, that's a huge amount of money. So they could just, I think it's smart that they take that and say, you know what, this track's not performing. Let's not give them all that money. Let's take half that money and go spend it in a new market and get new fans and and go down that route. So I understand why they're doing it. I always think, and you guys probably can tell, that I think NASCAR is in decline. And I think that they're grasping at straws and that kind of thing to try to make something happen. And this is not a bad idea because I think the wealth does need to be redistributed as NASCAR has changed. It's kind of evolved into this different product, and it might be good to get the money more evenly distributed, or to do something different with it besides lining the pockets of SMI and NASCAR who own those tracks.
I would say that
Right, societal changes overall have affected it, because 30, 40, 50 years ago when you were a teenager, it was all about having a nice car with a carburetor, and you were working on it, and you were getting pipes, and you were doing different things. And yeah, but nowadays you don't see kids doing that at all.
if my kid, it's not as
Yeah, so culture has changed and that's affected it, but I don't know. So what's iRacing's spin on this? I mean, street courses, temporary street courses. I think the Chicago, street course is it proves it out that it can be done. In fact, it can be done before the race even happens. They did the virtual version first, and so where's next? Miami? Maybe is there a doubleheader in play with the Formula One race? Who knows?
I will have to agree. I don't know.
Yeah.
Covering it, I will have to agree with Elliott Sadler's tweet that the reason the F1 race was so much bigger, it's one race a year, which is 32 races.
Is 32 saturation point? That's always a discussion. I think it feels right to me. I mean, we have a proper off season. We end up racing in the off season, other stuff, but I wouldn't want it to go all year long, so if it was shorter, we would just find something else to do.
Well, somebody who has found something else to do is Dale Earnhardt. He's joining the Monday Night Series racing again. He's going to be running it as well as Kyle Busch. This is a league basically that Ford Martin runs. I don't know if it's the same Ford Martin that used to show up on Sirius XM as a kid, but he's the one who runs it, and he also runs the feeder series for it. I think I'm going to try out that series here while our league is on hiatus.
That's cool. I might be interested in doing that with you. But that looks like fun. I mean, it looks like the place to be. I mean, last week it was Kyle Busch. This place, it's Dale Earnhardt. The next announcement that Monday Night Racing says is iRacing has agreed to reach a 3-race deal for the Monday Night races to be broadcasted on iRacing's official Twitch channel, starting with the season opener at Daytona, November 1st, which is coming up this weekend. Or Monday night, I should say.
Yeah, it's a really good kind of pro-am type league. And personally, I would want to get in it because you get to race with your heroes, but also being able to run our colors and our logo on that broadcast would be huge for the show, I think, too. Well, Brian, you're our IRX guy, or even you got some more?
Yeah, I just think this Monday Night League's going to really do well on. When you start bringing those names in, you're going to get eyeballs like him and Kyle Busch, Dale Jr., and some of the pro guys. it was a fun racing league to watch last year because, like I said last week, that they just had really cool odd combinations sometimes that made for really fun races to watch. Um, and yeah, I just think this is going to be a fun thing to keep an eye on.
In some ways, it's what the Pro Invitational should have been.
Exactly. I remember, Brian, and it'll stick in my head forever, the Pro 4 dirt trucks at Watkins Glen leaning on each other, like really, really leaning on each other. And Kyle Busch was ultra aggressive, and that was pretty fun to watch. Which suits his style, you know, so.
All right, Brian, let's jump onto IRX.
Yeah, so iRacing tweeted some video from the recap race at Barcelona last week. Some really cool video to check out on that thing. And then they actually had a race at Hell on 27th. That was today, right? I haven't seen any results for that yet.
No, yesterday. I watched parts of that.
That was yesterday. Okay. I can't get the race recap up. So do you remember how that went, Mike?
You know, I don't know. I don't have the results or anything in my head, but I can tell you that Hell track, Hell, is what they call it. When you go out of the starting gate, and they start 3 wide here, which is a little different in some tracks, but if you're on the outside, you're pretty much hosed. You're going to be dead last going because the first corner is to the right, but the Joker is right there at turn 1 off to the left, and so the announcers were saying, well, the strategy here is if you're on the left side of the starting grid, you better be taking that Joker that first lap, or you're going to just lose so much track position. And sure enough, that's kind of how it played out. The people on the left would just jump on the Joker, and they'd come out pretty equal, even though it's a disadvantage. It's fun to watch, though, for sure. And they have the All-Star version, too, with some, famous people, as you would call it, in there.
We always love to get to see when there's crossover between the real world and the sim world. In fact, we were just talking about it with the Monday night racing. Well, this is going the other direction. We've got Coke Series driver Vicente Salas, and he's doing some real world late model testing. Has a little post on Twitter with a shot of him coming around the corner.
That's nice that he gets opportunities, and I wonder what the goal is. Hopefully it's to get in a real car. It looks like that is his goal.
Vicente, isn't he from Florida? Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what track this is. It's a short clip and doesn't have anything particular, but it looks a lot like Five Flags to me, just from what I see.
With the red and white wall?
It's pretty heavily banked. That's steep for a short track.
Now he runs not just in the Coke, but the Rallycross as well. All right, next up is a video. The ABAC Sim Racing Expo is moving. And it's about news broke out this week that they're going to move the Sim Racing Expo away from the Nürburgring to Nuremberg, the town, and combining with the Retro Classics Car Show. And so it's a move. They had a nice place at the track to have this expo. The track has a big area, for booths, exhibition booths, and a place, to do the sim racing, races and whatnot, and different areas for this big group of people. That was pretty nice, and he talked about how the current layout was great, and not sure it needed to be changed. So this guy was not a fan of them moving it into the town. So the people who put the show on, they felt like they need to change venue. And so that even though Nuremberg is right there next to the track, it's not going to be convenient, especially if you want to get out and do some hot laps and that kind of thing. The other thing was, how are the people going to mix? Because they at the same time, at the same place, they're going to have the Retro Classics Car Show. And, you know, the kind of crowd that goes to the Classic Car Show isn't the same kind of crowd that's going to go to the Sim Racing Expo. And so they're really two different sets of people.
That gives the opportunity for probably even more crossover.
His take was, well, you know, the people going to the Classic Car Show, they're the older German crowd, and they're not going to be interested in, you know, sim racing products and that kind of thing.
You're old and you enjoy it.
That's right. I really do want to go to that show one day.
I wish there was one close to Middle America, right, instead of all the way coasts. But speaking of the coast, Brian, iRacing going to Coliseum.
Yeah, so Steve Myers posted this in his Twitter that that iRacing is going to be helping out with NASCAR as they make their Clash race, as they hold their Clash race at the LA Coliseum in Los Angeles. So we heard a little bit about this before, but and we even saw a little bit of iRacing footage of some testing there, but we know that NASCAR is going to the Clash, and iRacing is going to be a partner with NASCAR and getting that all set up. So it's kind of made official by Steve Myers, and just curious as to whether this track is going to be something that we're going to be able to get sometime soon, maybe before the actual race goes down.
There's some there's some great quotes in this I want to get out, Brian. It's an article on sporttechie.com. And I'm going to read the first quote here from Steve. Our business isn't just a video game. We've developed a product that's grown enough that the real world now views it as an opportunity and a way to make their sports better.
Now, I will say that if you want it to come out soon, let me tweet about it, because last time I tweeted about Phoenix got released a week later. So just let me tweet tonight, and we'll have LA Coliseum next week.
There you go. I like that. Knock on wood, right?
That's right.
I want you to tweet about lane choice.
I can try, but I don't know if I can fix that one.
So I want to also read a quote about Ben Kennedy, who's the guy who's heir apparent to NASCAR. He is part of this article, and he talks about how this idea came about. He said the process started simply. Kennedy's team went to the Coliseum's website a couple years ago and filled out the Contact Us form. Discussion slowed down during the onset of the pandemic, but resumed in earnest last summer. One of the concepts that we've been talking about, especially on the international side, is of having a temporary course built inside of a stadium, and then you can scale it to other places too, Kennedy says. So this is cool. So like if you could pull this off in the Coliseum, then they could go to Rome and do the same thing. Or they could go to, Spain or Germany or somewhere like that, like the international crowd. They have a very similar layout, in one of those stadiums, just recreate it.
It does mention on here that they've also been, or Myers mentions that he's been racing for 21 years, right? And that they've got four current projects going on. Did you mention that already?
No, so that's the other thing that this does mention. There's 4 current projects going on with NASCAR, and David and we were trying to identify which of the 4 they are. So California, and what else?
They may be continuing to work on Chicago, depending on if that happens or not.
The Coliseum.
Yeah. So yeah, the Coliseum.
And
we came up with 3. We didn't come up with a 4th.
Yeah, we don't know what the 4th is, so that's news, right?
Maybe somebody watching live could chime in on chat and say what they think.
Another thing, a nice quote in here is, I got to find it again. Myers admits he was skeptical of the original Coliseum proposal. I'll be honest, my first thought was, wow, this seems like a bad idea, he says, until his team started building the simulation. Before iRacing built the Coliseum model, it constructed a free-floating track in the digital realm on which professional iRacing drivers and subsequently actual Cup drivers could test it out. Those test races were live streamed to NASCAR headquarters, where Kennedy and his unit could watch, communicate with the drivers, and even request real-time adjustments. And it goes on to say, you know, they were changing the banking from 2.5 to 5 degrees and stuff like that. And isn't that amazing? I mean, they're doing it real-time testing digitally. NASCAR and their executives are watching it, and they're saying, okay, we need a little more banking. Can you dial that in and we could try it again?
That's pretty amazing.
Just imagine the amount of money that saves somebody like NASCAR, who has no other way to really test this, other than build it and redo it. It's really great that they can do these kind of testing without without having to make it in real world yet, and try to get something optimal, and then go ahead and produce it based on what iRacing says was the best way to build it.
But basically, iRacing is now kind of the Adobe of tracks.
Well, I think it's evolved into something that it wasn't intended to ever be. Maybe it was intended to be this, but I mean, NASCAR must be pleased as punch. John Henry must be pleased as punch. I mean, he's a NASCAR owner, heavily invested in NASCAR, heavily invested in iRacing. And to see these two come together like this to work on the future product of, this is important to NASCAR. And this is, like you said, it makes it so easy to try to get it right before they screw it up.
Right? Who would have thought that this would be the way to get into real racing? You start off by building, a simulation, and it winds up being that you become a part of the sport in a way that no one has become a part of the sport that way before.
Last quote, I'm going to go over Steve Myers again. Our business is built around replicating as closely as we can real world racing. No business in the world is spending as much money to develop a piece of software to do this than we are. Great stuff. So check out that article, sporttechie.com.
Well, iRacing is going to need another person to help promote tracks like the new Coliseum track as they come out. So they are posting an advert for a new multimedia specialist. You'll be reporting to Alex Horn. When I read over the post, I could not see that it requires you to move. So this may be it. Oh no, it does have a location. It says Chelmsford, Massachusetts, right at the front. So that probably means you would need to move. There's a little bit of travel involved, but basically you're going to focus on in-game screenshots, on-site videos. You may travel some for some of the marketing as well for demonstrations and trade shows. And the qualifications are initiative taker, self-motivated. Got to be able to work independently and team. You got to be able to prioritize projects based on what the company's goals are. And definitely you have to have a passion for the world of racing and gaming, because I don't think you would enjoy the job if you didn't. So if you're interested, send them an email with your resume.
Well, looks like I'm moving. It's nice knowing you guys.
Dream job, right?
It's right.
I mean, yeah, if you're an iRacer and that's your line of business, why not? All right, I got this one. Esports taking a toll. We talked about this a little last week. The announcement that Coca-Cola Series eNASCAR driver is stepping away voluntarily due to the grind. Nathan Lyon is his name. And Racer.com actually caught up with Nathan and got an interview, basically. And we have a few quotes from Nathan that I thought we would go over. Here's the first one. I can't really say where I'll be in 5 years, so I don't know if I will ever decide to come back and try to go for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series again or not. Lyon told Racer, I'd say retire is a pretty good word, actually. Stepping away from sim racing was something that was kind of in the back of my mind since the beginning of this year, Lyon said. And he went on to say here that he wants to be a weatherman and he loves to go storm chasing and watching weather. He has a huge passion for it, and that's what he's going to try to get into.
Racing is fun, and it's got to be a blessing for the guys who really want to make it their career. But at the same time, sometimes if you turn something that's your passion into your career, the grind can get in the way of the enjoyment, and when it turns into your job instead of the thing you love, it can run you away from it. I teach music and I love performing a lot, but other than when I'm in the gym, when I'm usually in the car, I'm not listening to music because I've been teaching it all day. I'm actually usually listening to a podcast instead because it allows my brain to shut off from what I've been doing at work all day. So I definitely understand where he's coming from.
And then we got another guy, Brian.
Yeah, this came on a Twitter thread from Zach Campbell. So Zach Campbell is a road racing series top rated road racer. He was in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup series, so that's the pinnacle. Yeah, well, he's going to be Coanda this coming year, right? Last year, last year he was RLL Esport, and this next year he will be with Coanda. So, and he finished 8th in the points, and he has a long thread on Twitter about what all is involved in being a top level professional. I will say because they're getting paid for the most part. iRacer. Um, he even put up a spreadsheet of how many hours he's put in and what finishes they produced. I mean, he's constantly putting in between most 25 to 35, 40, 47 sometimes was the most he ever put in practice in 1 week. So yeah, so they're putting in a ton of time. Um, Now, some of the points he makes are pretty spot on. The difference between sim racing and the real thing, he says, is that while an IndyCar team will might get 4 to 7 test days per year, sim racers are able to test 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no limitation on testing, and it's another thing is that you can have people within your team who might not be in the series can do setup testing as well. So there could be so much testing going on in these, and it takes a lot of time. He says, sometimes some of the crazier setups actually wind up working the best, and it's that can only be figured out through hours and hours and hours of testing. So he's not complaining about it. This is what he chose to do. It's what he loves. But my comment on this would be, what are, what are you eliminating by having guys who can put in this amount of time? If you know what my point is like you know the top series now are only going to be able to have people in it that can put this kind of time and are only professionals, and is that what we want as sim racers? It's just to have this group of elite top drivers that put in so much time that they're basically out of reach for your average driver, or your even if you're just a aspiring professional driver. It's really hard to get this kind of testing and feedback and all the stuff that goes into being this top top level racer. So yeah, that would be my question. Is some people have even commented on this thread that, hey, what if these drivers get the track 2 hours before, 2 days before the race. So the Porsche series runs every 2 weeks. If the race is on Saturday, they would find out what track they're going to be at on Tuesday, Thursday, and so that would limit how many days you have to test on that. So a couple interesting things like that kind of limit the amount of time that these guys have to put in order to be at the top level.
Could just test all the tracks then, 24 hours
Probably.
a day. Yeah,
Probably right. They'll put in more time because they're testing so many tracks.
Well, think about it. In NASCAR, they can control how many test days because they have Goodyear in their back pocket. And, you're not going to test without tires. And Goodyear's going to know, and NASCAR is going to know. And there's been teams, that have been caught testing when they're not supposed to, and it's a pretty serious offense. But in iRacing, I mean, you can't limit somebody on what they're doing. I mean, do we want to? Like you said, is that what we want? I don't know. I don't know if that's a goal or not, but perhaps iRacing could limit on, software wise. Like, let's say if you're a pro driver in the Porsche, Super Cup, and you're one of those guys, maybe iRacing can program it where, if you have that particular license and you're in this particular series, the system won't let you into the Porsche car unless you're, only 2 hours a week or something, and then it automatically kicks you out. You can drive any other car, any other track, but you can't drive that car.
That's funny you say that because I had a very similar thought to that. If they could do that, now, I mean, they could work around it in a couple little ways. If they have multiple accounts, maybe they could get around it that way, or if they take a chance on borrowing somebody else's password or something like that. There are a couple of different ways that could happen, but I kind of like the idea of, if you want to make it realistic, these guys don't have that kind of track time. They have sim time as well, but you know, there's a debate of how well that translates directly from sim to the real world race, where you're comparing apples to oranges in that case, where on iRacing you're racing the same exact everything's apple to apples. So the amount of time you can test and practice on iRacing is identical to what you're going to see when the competition actually starts. So my worry is that you're gonna have just these group of drivers that have these resources in the top series, and everybody else is going to be like, I'm not even worried about it. I can't do that. And I think if you were to find a way to limit testing, or it would be a little bit more inclusive series. You might see more people bumping in and out of the top series as opposed to all the same guys pretty much all the time.
There's probably a group of drivers that don't even entertain it because they know the time commitment.
Hand raises. I don't think I have the talent either, but yeah, I know I don't want to put the time in. Have you considered what the reason is they put the limits on testing? Was it because the drivers are complaining?
No, the owners and cost and
Yeah,
you
money.
mean that's money.
It doesn't cost money for the online racers to test. So, and I mean, they can test offline. I don't see how you could ever put this to a limit. So, you're just going to have people who want to put the time in, and I mean, but that's why it's paying, right? They're turning it into their job, and some people will maintain the passion for that. Some people won't, and it's also good to have people coming in and out. So, I think it's rough, but I think it's just that's how it is if you want to get to the top level. And all of those guys that reach the top level in Cup, they put crazy, insane hours in the lower ranks too before they got up to where the testing rules are strict.
Yeah, I guess I come this as at this at a more humanitarian side where, you know, does iRacing want these guys who are, automatons just racing in the rig all the time? Is that something that they want to promote? You know, or do they want more well-rounded people who are doing this? I don't know. That's kind of
Well,
where I'm coming at.
unless they're going to put them on the payroll, and pay up a paycheck, they need to give them enough time to go out and make a living.
But that's already the case, right?
Right.
Right now the lower end is probably not to the point where they can go home, but the champ, he could, if he spends that wisely, invests it wisely, he won't have to work for a while. The next thing we do have, as we're talking about the release of the track earlier, is the patch notes. And if you glance at the patch notes, there's really just a lot of minor things, and then there's kind of three highlights. The first one is there was a lot of change to the dirt sprint car. They increased the engine and power, they adjusted the tires, they've changed the aerodynamics, trying to deal with a pitch sensitivity issue. They've also set something where the opponent vehicle settings have been adjusted to reduce the visual warping that could sometimes be seen, and they also updated the setups. The most notable thing in the Cup car is that the aerodynamic shifting in the draft at super speedways has been reduced, especially for oversteer. I guess that means when the wind is pushing you left or right, essentially. That's an interesting change considering the car is done running at super speedways. Then the biggie, obviously, is the Phoenix track.
And AI available now at Phoenix. So I think that's the first time we've gotten a track where AI is ready to go out of the box.
Well, as soon as it comes out on the box, are you going to be buying this next thing here, Mike?
Well, I don't know because I already have one, so probably not. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. tweeted an early rendering of the '87 Buick LeSabre and gave some reasons why it was chosen over the more popular Pontiac. The reason I wanted this car over the more popular '87 Pontiac, the Buick could easily be an Olds as well, so kind of 2 for 1.
My first car was a Buick.
Yeah, if you remember, they had like a while ago, they had like 3 different classic '87 stock cars, and basically were polling people what their favorite was. And I think the Pontiac was actually the winner of the poll, but it seems like they decided to go against it. And this might have been part of the reason is that you can almost get you can get 2 cars for the price of one, basically. By scanning the Buick LeSabre, you can get the Olds as well.
I don't get it. So you're just saying paint it differently and it's an Oldsmobile?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Junior was saying in his tweet. He said the Buick could easily be an Olds as well, so it must be pretty simple, or so similar that it would take either very minor tweaks or something like that, or maybe just cosmetic paint tweaks to turn it from one to the other.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the differences between them to tell you what they are, but I'm sure he knows.
Remember, there used to be the Mercury and Ford that were literally the same car with different nameplates?
Yeah.
So I wonder what car did they scan? We were speculating about. Remember, we were talking on one show. Everyone was sending pictures to Dale of where he should go and scan the car and suggesting different places where different museums and different places these cars are at. So I'm curious which one actually is it?
All right, Brian, tell us about the Grand Prix this weekend.
This is from last week. This was round number 6 for the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championships. And this was at the Hockenheim Ring. And the winner for the 3rd straight week in a row was Martin van Luzenoord. And so this is his 3rd consecutive win, his 4th win in 6 rounds. And he takes over sole position of the standings, the lead in the league standings, the series championship standings. He was actually tied for it going into this round because one of the races that earlier in the year he got no points in. He finished really low. So, but with this win, man, he's really starting to dominate this series. The points don't show how dominant he's been because of the one poor week, but man, winning 4 out of 6 races is top notch. So we're going to catch up with him again at round 7, and I believe they come to the states this time. I think Road America is going to be round 7, so we'll keep an eye on that. See if he goes for 4 in a row. So a 4-peat for old Martin there.
Is this crew, these guys that are running this championship, are these going to be the guys in the Formula One series next year? I'm kind of wondering, what's going to happen in 2022 with Open Wheel Championship? Is it going to be this car? Is it going to be the new Mercedes car? Is it going to be the 2022 model, the 2021 model? I think that's still an open question.
Though you could speculate that the other than those that get relegated, they'd probably keep the top guys from this and move them over to the F1 car if that's the route they go.
Yeah, nothing's been, obviously, it's a little premature. The car hasn't been released yet, but obviously that's going to be a big question, how they're going to handle this World Grand Prix Championship series. Are they going to keep it in the Dallara IR01 or switch over to the Mercedes? Now, it would be nice to have different manufacturers in that series if they do switch over to the Mercedes. But that's the, as of right now, we already know that that's the only one that we know of that they've been working on. But I think a Grand Prix in that series would be a little bit more compelling if they did have multiple manufacturers.
We have one more news topic. I'll hit it up pretty quick. It's actually just an event reminder that we have the Suzuka 10 Hours coming up by iRacing very shortly. It is the GT3 cars at Suzuka, and it's November 5th through 7th, the kind of standard special event start times.
Okay, and then podcast housekeeping. Don't forget the Aftermath podcast. What was the last one? A train wreck? Yeah, it kind of sounded that way, but yeah, it's kind of fun to listen to. Check it out. Don't forget our iRacersLounge.com, our website. Again, a thank you to GridFinder and their sponsorship. That really allowed us to take off with this website this year in 2021, and it's been a huge success. Again, thank you to them. Don't forget, we're in Performance Motorsports Network.
One quick side note. I'll have that train wreck straightened out here in the next few weeks. Just give it some time.
While we're talking podcast helping notes, why don't we go ahead? I don't know what just came out, but I don't think it was the right words. While we're talking housekeeping notes, let's just go ahead and announce that we've talked a guy into. We finally roped him into taking the role on. Kyle is going to be our social media, or chief of socials now.
I thought it was executive director of public relations.
That's funny. I thought it was chief of socials.
And yeah, you're going to help out on the aftermath too a little bit, Kyle. So good luck, herding the cats, as I call it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely herding cats.
Fantasy.
All right, guys. So in the fantasy world here, the championship has got 2 rounds left. Kansas was last week. Resdog was leading the point standings by 30 points over our own Terry Groves. And the winner of the week in Kansas was Resdog. He took the overall win at Kansas. Tony Groves was 28 points behind in 5th place. So Resdog opens up a 58-point lead with 2 weeks to go. So that's going to be a tough one to overcome. Tony was probably looking for a better result last week at Kansas, and he sure didn't want Resdog to win Kansas, but that's what happened.
That's a clutch win. I mean, clutch.
Yeah, you're right. That is a big win. So Tony's got to make up 58 points in 2 weeks. That's really going to be tough to do. Although Martinsville can kind of be a wild card. There's so much craziness can happen in Martinsville, especially with it being a closeout week to advance to the Final Four. I mean, almost anything could happen. So you can see somebody dropping a lot of points if the wrong things happen to the wrong drivers. So it's not over yet. I'm sure Tony's going to put in his best effort for Martinsville. So we have also in the top 10 overall Jedi McFly. Chris Scales is in eighth. Frozen Cactus Greg dropped to 11th. Stephen Llewellyn 12th, and Tony the Tiger Rochette 13th. So and Tyler Williamson, he dropped to 16th. So it looks like the best of the rest right now goes to Chris Scales in eighth place, and we'll see who can pull out the best of the rest championship, because that's all we're fighting for, as compared to Tony, who's way ahead of everybody.
I know he was mad I wrote him off already in this championship. But I'll stand by those words. I think Res Dog has got it in the bag with his clutch win at Kansas. 2 weeks left, 28 points. That's going to be tough unless Res Dog just totally blows it, you know?
Yeah, you're right. And like I said, I think his Hail Mary is Martinsville being such a unpredictable race. So we'll see how it goes. It's not impossible, but it's not going to be easy. And I think the championship week will be a little bit more formally. Wow, I can't say that word. But it's gonna go back to a little bit more predictability on championship week.
Our first hardware item is the Podium GT World Challenge. Actually, it's their wheel rim from Fanatec, but what's really new is that it's $80 off the normal retail price, so it's on sale.
Wow, still a lot of money. $629.95.
Yeah, it's a nice rim. I probably might have even picked this one over the old Porsche rim I grabbed. A lot of button selection, including the rotaries that you need. In fact, in some ways, it's almost got better selection than the Porsche rim. And it also has the advanced pedal modules on the back. It's got I can't see the side view. Oh, it's just two. It's two instead of three, like the Formula rim has. But that means you can do stuff like use your hand clutch instead of a foot clutch, which is really handy for doing stuff like launching out of pit road.
I would 100% pick this, you know, when I bought my DD1 if it was available then. Because the one I ended up with was just crap. This is really 4 different products put together as a package. It's the wheel itself, the podium hub, which I just bought, and then that button box that you described, and then the advanced pedal module as well. So all 4 pieces together, $629.95. Basically, like you said, $80 off if you bought everything separately.
Now, another thing that those analog pedals can be used for is if your brake does fail, like or your gas, like when I broke my gas on my P3s, you can actually use those as gas and brake. It's hard, but I tried to do it at I think Indianapolis road course. It was rough. You got the next one, Mike.
We got 3D Wrap Ingasa Pro Pedals Review by Barry Rowland over at Sim Racing Garage. And he goes through his normal thorough review. And I don't know if it's a got it or not on this one. He said that some of the parts, weren't polished, they had little burrs on them, little metal burrs and different things like that. But overall, I mean, it's your normal load cell kind of pedal. There's a lot of metal pieces, but the plastic pieces are 3D printed, and so that's why this company is selling these, I guess. So they look pretty nice. What do you think? I didn't see a price yet. I'm still looking for that.
On almost all the hardware stuff, I almost just got to defer to Barry's opinion because he actually gets to try them out.
Yeah, I found the price 549 to 649 euros. And then the base plate 100.
It's really too bad, though, on this next one that none of our over the road guys are present.
Yeah, I was saving this one for Greg, but he couldn't be with us today. But so this is actually from iRacing Drivers World, and it was a post of Jarrett Snap's rig within a rig. So so he has a racing rig set up in the back of his over the road truck. So when he's at his rest stops and stuff like that, he can fire up the simulator and do some more driving because he didn't get enough all day long every day, pretty much. But yeah, really cool to see somebody who's this dedicated to the sim, and he goes ahead and takes care of business while he's out on the road.
Yeah, I'm looking at his setup here, and it's almost like a lawn chair, like a folding lawn chair, but it reclines back. But he's got fashion to the handles where you would lay your arms naturally, right where your wrist would be. He's got attached metal bars that come up and come to the middle where the wheel mounts. And so the wheel's right there and mounts to the folding lawn chair, so to speak. The pedal tray is attached to the lawn chair so it doesn't slide around and move, with some metal bars as well. So it's a pretty solid design for being so, minimalistic.
I think that chair is not fashioned. I think it comes that way. I think it's actually a purchasable item.
Yeah, it's built like that, right? It's got that Formula layback look to it, right? For Formula seating.
And also look at the headrest. That looks kind of like a racing style headrest.
Playseat. It could be a Playseat some kind of modded Playseat, maybe.
Yeah, but it leans back and it's in position. I don't think you'd want to put a DVD on this rig, but it definitely works for being out on the road.
Yeah, it's just like a folding table that he's got his monitor on, just a single monitor. He's got his mouse and keyboard there, all very accessible. I imagine he's got to be able to break this down pretty quick to access his bed and stuff like that for when he's sleeping over. Um, but I think it looks like a Logitech, maybe a G27 or something like that. Um, but yeah, so cool. Now I'm assuming he's probably using a hotspot for his internet provider. I I don't know of any other way that could be done really when you're over the road like that.
Yeah, and I've raced with a guy before that's successfully done that, and obviously, Brian, you do that all the time.
Correct. That's my main internet source. Yes. Um, I'm a little lucky because I live in such a rural area. I don't get a lot of interference from overuse in the area, which could slow me down, especially once I hit my limit of unlimited data. Um, I would be concerned that if I was in a place that was a densely populated area, that if you ran out of unlimited data, they start throttling you back based on the consumption in the area. A high populated place might slow them down a little bit, but I think he could probably be okay for the most part.
Yeah, and he probably can find Wi-Fi to hit sometimes if he's in more densely populated areas. As far as your home location, if you're in a denser population area, you're going to have access to fiber or cable. It's interesting. I find it interesting that you're in Pennsylvania. I know which state you live in, and I'm in Arkansas, in just a small town of 20,000, and I've actually got fiber optic.
Yeah, I got about 20,000 cows around. So does that count?
Um, we got some of that on the ridge. There's this place. There's this little ridge, but otherwise it's all rice and wheat. And I do have the next one. This is a PSA for CSLDD owners. Basically, delete all of your Fanatec drivers when you install your DD. There's a pretty good chance that some of the older drivers are not successfully getting purged when the DD drivers are getting installed, and it's causing issues. Ryan T. Everly posted in Sim Racing on Facebook that he ran into the issue, but when he deleted the CSW 2.5 drivers, his drive started working just fine.
Yeah, David, I think this actually probably is also if you're upgrading from a CSW to any of the direct drive DD1 or 2, because when I did that, I did have to wind up dumping all of my Fanatec software in order to get it to work right. So this probably is the case for any upgrade from a CSW to a direct drive wheel. Is the best thing to do is just uh, totally remove all of that stuff and then just do it from scratch. But apparently that issue is the same with the CSL DD as well.
Well, when I got my DD1, I don't remember having a problem, but I don't remember if I deleted drivers or not. If that was a procedure back then.
Yeah, I mean, it drove me crazy for a couple days trying to get it set up till I finally got some online help from Fanatec, and that's the first thing they told me to do is just wipe everything out and start over.
All right, Mike, or not Mike, Brian, you got the next one, the Oval Racing Cluster.
Yeah, this is from Rise Incorporated, and it's initialed RISC with periods after each letter. Rise Industries, they introduced their upcoming Oval Racing Cluster. It's 15 total inputs, and the action can be bounded in game and out. It has a 7-way funky switch, a 2-position mom, and toggle, 2-position toggle, and a 3-input encoder, and 3 LED all metal buttons. So it's not a huge button box, but it does give you a lot of options for this little box here. Um, if it's to me, it would be a really good addition to any system you have. Even if you already have some box and you want just a little bit extra, having this thing off to the side would probably do a really good job of just those couple other little things you might want to map.
Well, if you scroll on the picture set and go to the later pictures in the picture set, you'll see that they zip tied it to a wheel, to an oval wheel, and are using it for like push to talk. And that's a fascinating use for that. I mean, if you want a push to talk on an oval wheel, this is really nice because not only do you have a push to talk, you have additional buttons, you got the joystick, you got the little rotator, and so there's several things that you can just reach, while your hand is still on the wheel.
Yeah, it's small enough that you could mount it on a wheel if you wanted to. It looks like it's on an MPI wheel in that picture that you're talking about, Mike. Looks a little bulky to be on the wheel, but if that's something that you can deal with just to get your push to talk set up, it's not a bad option.
It just says stay tuned for more, so I don't know if it's for sale yet or not, but this is Rise Inc. The next one is Intel Alder Lake 12XXX release thread. Philip Morton posted in the forums that new Alder Lake CPUs are looking very tasty for iRacing. Single core performance has been seen to breach the 800 point mark, and CPU Z in single core, and its multi-core is pretty solid too. Due to the big little design, it doesn't equate in the same way as previous CPUs though. And we got a video about this as well. We found on YouTube about Intel overhauls their CPUs. And I guess if you're building, I guess this is the way to go. I haven't been following this because I haven't needed to build for a while.
And when you
the question is,
can you get it?
that's what I was going to say. The question is availability, because if you're going to build, it's going to be hard to find a lot of the components you might need. I'm actually starting to consider a build for myself, and yeah, it's just so hard to find stuff, and that's not price gouged out of ridiculous or out of ridiculousness that I can't really see to do it just yet.
The supply situation is just crazy all over the place. I talked with my athletic director today, and we're ordering new uniforms. And I said we don't have to order them until about March, and he said no, let's go ahead and order them now because of the way everything keeps getting delayed.
And price increasing too, so get it while it's cheap. How about a rig tour, David?
Yeah, this thing is nice. We've got one on. Let me pull up the channel so I can tell you a little bit about this guy because I've watched the video, but I don't know much about the guy.
This came in from a listener, but I forget who.
Yeah, it came in from a listener. And you put the listener's message, but you didn't, I guess, put his name. But this video is on Race Beyond Matter, and it's just an insane rig. The guy owns every rim I think you could own. He has basically every sports car rim. He's got Husky pedals. He's got triple monitors with the bezel monitors. The seat's a real nice seat. The computer is an insane gaming computer. He has window net that he puts up once he gets in the seat beside him on both sides, and just the way he's in the position, it looks when he has the lights off in the room, it looks like he's in the car. It's pretty amazing.
So the window net on the right, I think, is permanent. The one on the left, it moves in and out so he can get in the seat, I think. But it really does add something to it. And the one on the left, I mean, when you look at it in place, it looks, solid. It looks like it's attached. It looks like it's part of everything. But then, like when he moves it out of the way and gets out of the way, it's like literally PVC pipe, and he's got this, window net stretched across it, and it's not attached to anything. He just kind of lays it in place, and it's just kind of sitting there. But he talks about how he made the window net. Those window nets are not actual racing window nets. He made those from scratch, actually, and put in the logos on them and all that other stuff to make them look cool.
I wonder if when he's in an accident, he goes ahead and drops them to let his crew know he's okay.
And then so what he does about the dash and the treatment around the button box area to make a dash, I mean, he's literally using like cardboard box and stuff like that, and then he puts this black felt stuff over it, and he basically saying, make everything as black as you can, and he kind of just formulated a dash and stuff with this material that he has, and it's a fascinating idea.
You definitely should come onto the site and check that video out. We have the Playseat Trophy Racing Seat coming up, Brian. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, this thing's coming out soon from Playseat. It's the Trophy Racing Seat, and it's really a whole rig, and it's direct drive compliant or compatible. It's a tubular style with kind of I would say it's closer to a GT style seating position than a formula style. It's kind of got an odd shape to the bottom, where the tubular looks like an upside down V, and then the tube wraps around and comes up to the steering box. So yeah, I don't see an easy place to put a monitor yet, so I'm assuming there might be some monitor options available at some point. Of course, VR wouldn't be a problem with that, but a monitor would need to be something you need to figure out how to get that mounted in. It looks fairly sturdy for Playseat, and you never know once you get a direct drive on there how well it's how stable it is under those kind of forces. But it's not a bad looking seat. I would say that I didn't get a price on it yet, so I'm not sure exactly what it's running. So I'll try to figure that.
A definite positive with this rig is they don't have the post in the, which is always a good thing.
And
Yeah, those
I think
posts
the
run around the outside of your legs and come up to this to the steering wheel. So yeah,
I think the thing with this is it's a play seat, but for direct drive. It's the really thick tubular style, and it's it's built where it can withstand a DD1, a DD2, and whatnot, and not rattle itself to the ground. The problem with this rig to me is like where do you put your keyboard? Where do you put your mouse? Where do you put your drink? Where do you put your button box? Where do you put your shifter? Where do you put
adjust it.
everything? Yeah, no adjustment. Right. You can't say I'm 6 foot tall or I'm 5 foot tall. Yeah. The height of the steering wheel, there's no adjustment there at all. At all. I mean, there's nothing.
it looks like you might be able to tilt it, but that's probably about it. And you're not going to get any other kind of seat on there. It's not like that kind of adjustable. It's pretty much a one-shot deal. Here's your rig type of deal.
Where's Tony when you need him to talk about this?
Now, when you watch their little teaser video, 35 seconds, I find it interesting that for a split second in the first 10 seconds, they show a picture of Max Verstappen walking, in his full helmet and suit and everything. I don't know why, but they do show a picture of Max Verstappen.
Because they can, I guess. But that's not him on the rig testing
No.
it out.
Okay, so this next one is fascinating. We have an interview with Gomez of Gomez Sim Industries. I actually didn't catch his full name there. But it is an interesting interview to get to know this person a little bit and see who he is, see his workspace. You can see right where he works on his wheel. And it's interesting. He has 3 or 4 other people that work with him building wheels. He personally does build wheels as well. And if you're interested in buying one of these wheels from him, I would definitely advise you to check out the video because you're going to learn a lot about his ethics, about how he builds, his troubleshooting. He talks about customer service. For example, I think we talked about on a previous show that this guy is building wheels on his Twitch channel. So you could go watch Twitch every day and watch him build your wheel. You can order it and then later watch him build it. But he was saying even on the Twitch channel, he's had customers come on that had recently bought a wheel and they have some kind of small problem. They come onto the chat, they ask a question. He stops what he's doing and resolves the customer's question right there, then and there. And that's the kind of customer service that he provides. And it's very interesting.
That's something you get from my experience with these smaller but higher end providers, is because their volume is smaller, they can give each individual customer a lot more attention. Whereas, it's basically kind of like going from the corner novelty shop to the to Walmart. You're not going to get the same customer service.
Now, and these they make some of the finest looking rims you can get anywhere. It's an American company. I believe he said he's from Texas in the interview. So that's really cool too. But man, and they've got some really good references. He's the guy who does the ones for Tony Kanaan. So, and somebody else too. I can't remember who it was, but they're making special editions for these real life drivers that use his rim.
Well, just 2 days ago, he put on his socials, welcome Rubens Barrichello to the Gomez family. He did a custom FPE with the new V2 Gomez shifters, and it's a beautiful wheel. for Rubens. It's got a mix of blue and gold colors on the dials and wheel. Beautiful wheel. Also, the video talks a bit about his relationship with Tony Kanong. He said Tony came in as a buyer, just as a regular customer, placing orders, and he's placed a lot of orders, not just one. He's bought many wheels from this place, and they did end up meeting in person, and he talked a little bit about that. That was a neat story.
That's really cool. And so the interview was on the Sim Pit, right? With
Sean Cole.
Sean Cole. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Great video.
You can see how excited Sean was to have him on there too. That was pretty cool.
Like a kid in a candy store look, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that enthusiasm rubs off too, and that's why this video is so much fun to watch, I think.
Yeah. If I wasn't in VR, I'd save up for one of these, but I think you lose quite a bit being in VR.
Yeah, that's kind of something that when I'm looking at the next item we're covering that I don't know if it'd be very useful in VR. Hey, y'all taking a look at this company review here, the Sim Panel from this company, Sim Panel. That's who they are, simpanel.com.
Yeah, it's a different kind of button box because it's, like those flat buttons that, they might, push in just a tiny bit, yep. But the whole thing is kind of flat, I guess is how you describe it.
It's got 3 knobs and then a bunch of just flat panels that you might see. I'm trying to think of what kind of hardware typically uses these kind of buttons. Where would you see this in real?
Just like a Stream Deck use something like that?
Yeah, kind of. So the biggest issue I would have with it is you can't really, if your vision's blocked, you can't really use tactile to locate your buttons.
It'd be hard to feel where the buttons are on this because it's so flat.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think their take on it is it's reprogrammable depending on what sim you're in. So like you can program it one way for your iRacing and another way for your flight sim and so forth.
That's all done within the sim anyway, right? That's all. So that's nothing special. The any set of buttons can be set to any hand you want. But what I actually found more interesting on this website was the other 2 items. And I agree. I really wish Greg was here because I want him to tell me about these other 2 items. There's a whole truck sim design that has an air brake knob on it, and I don't know what the red one is. I can't really see it. I know what the air brake.
But it's got the CB radio.
Yeah, it's got a CB
microphone
radio
thing.
and quite a few buttons. The yellow square is your air brakes. That's basically your parking brake. And the red one's got to be some kind of emergency type thing. And then there's this shifter knob that you can drop on top of it for Truck Simulator 2, and it looks more like a fighter joystick.
Pretty cool. Yeah, the CB radio box thing. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Well, we talked last week about the V3 pedals and a way to adjust them. And Kyle went and immediately did it, and he's going to tell us how his experience went.
And he made a video.
Yeah, I made a short little video about it. Actually, it went a lot better than I thought it was going to. I was a little skeptical at first, just because I didn't think my pedals could get any better than what they were. But what I ended up doing was I ended up taking the pedals apart, and it wasn't easy, actually. It was kind of a pain to get the pin out. The guy who went it before me, I guess, never lubed it, and I never knew to lube it, so it was stuck. So I was able to get it apart. And when I opened it up, I found out there was the original little whitish, yellowish, creamy looking foam pad in the bottom. And then I believe it was a green and a red. And so they're all different stiffnesses. So I took all those out, put 2 big solid green ones in, and took another green one and cut it in half and shoved it in there. And before I didn't realize how much brake travel I was actually having until I did this, and now I realize how much brake travel I don't have and how I can feel the pedal a lot better now by doing it. So it really did make a big improvement. And then my road course driving, it made even bigger improvement to where I wasn't just constantly locking them up into every corner.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what you need in the brake. It's a little bit different with throttle because with throttle control you want to feel the travel as well, but with brake you want it to be basically where you have to really use your muscles and to feel how deep you're pressing it. So I knew you'd be impressed with it once you did it, and in the same way that when I upgraded after my V3s broke, how much better I'm doing at Martinsville this week. I didn't lock the brakes up, I don't once in the NIS race.
Yeah, and I will say, if for ones that do have the V3 pedals, if you don't have the gas dampener for the gas pedal, I highly suggest getting it. It's been on here since before I bought it. And instead of just having a floppy pedal that you just can easily just mash, this has some resistance. So you have a lot better throttle control as well. So I do recommend that upgrade as well if you don't already have it.
And you can actually customize that to preferred stiffness.
Yep.
And you made a short video on how to do this to make it real easy. And how do they get that?
Actually, I didn't make a video on how to do it. It was more or less just kind of just a way of me saying that I did it, and it's actually been, quite pleasantly a lot better.
Cool. All right, so next up, the 3090 Ti is going to be a thing. And so we have a post in the forums here about it, and apparently it's going to require 450 watts of power from your PSU. So you better get out there and find those big old PSUs.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting because did they just recently announce the 4000 series? Is going to be coming relatively soon. Which of course, with the supply issues we've already talked about, who knows what that even means? But the 3090 Ti is going to, it's going to be a crazy fast car, I would think.
Yeah, Philip Morton in the forums, who's our go-to hardware source, he said, hey, if anyone's planning on going for this ultimate in space heater GPU, please be sure to have a power supply that can cope. It's going to be a crazy card. The cooling is going to be strained to the limit. And this will be one of the few times I would recommend pushing you to water cooling for such a beast, as it's better at removing that much heat from the die than normal air cooling. So he's saying you're going to have a beefy power supply, and you're going to probably need to do water cooling on the card.
Well, Brian, would you need that card to run this VR?
Well, short answer is not really. You don't have to. Okay, this is called the Varho Aero VR headset. Now, we did do a review of a Varho product a little while ago called the XR3, which is like a real high-end VR headset. They did it, and the image was fantastic. Really high resolution, the highest resolution VR headset out there that bar none. The only problem with it was like a commercial product. It was really expensive, and you had to pay a yearly fee to use it. So it's one of those weird products where you actually had to pay yearly, which I imagine they can do in those commercial instances. And I remember when reviewing that, I was like, it would be really nice to have a commercial version of it. Well, heck, we got one now. So this is the new Varo. This is called the Aero. Again, really high resolution. It was like over 2,500 pixels by 2,500 per eye, which is higher than the HP Reverb, which was the current king as far as resolution goes, which is that was 2180, I think 2160 per eye, 2160. So the resolution's better. It has a little bit wider field of view than the HP Reverb G2. Um, the lenses are really nice. There's no God rays at all. Uh, so he did say that the head strap was just a little awkward. Took a long time for him to really dial in the head strap to where he wanted it. The audio is really subpar, to be honest with you. It's literally just a pair of corded earbuds that plug into the unit, through a standard 3 millimeter jack. So, you really have to use over the ear headphones to really get decent sound on it. That wasn't really their main push. So this piece is running $2,000, so just under $2,000 for this headset. It uses outside lighthouse tracking. So if you don't have the outside lighthouse like some of the other units do, you got to get that lighthouse system, and it doesn't come with any handsets either. So if you're playing games other than simulators, you're gonna need to get like those hand controllers. So if you don't have any of that stuff, you're looking at another $700-800 to get fully upgraded and ready to go with this thing. So, uh, but the performance, your minimum was a 2080 they recommended for a graphics card, so it wasn't like crazy high end as far as graphic card goes. So if you want to put out that kind of money to get the top notch of resolution in a VR headset, this is where it's at right now. The Varho Aero.
Wow, it is something. Mini LED displays. They're taking orders now, and it ships within 3 to 4 months of purchase. And right now, if you were to buy the best one on the market, this is probably it. I mean, but the price is very telling too.
Yeah. If you already have like a Valve Index and the Lighthouse boxes, and you can get away with just buying the headset without all that stuff, you're still about $2,000 plus. So it's up there for sure. You can watch a full review of this on the MRTV Mixed Reality TV YouTube channel. He does a full review, and he really breaks down pretty good.
He's the go-to source for VR, isn't he? He's been this gold.
Yeah, he tests a lot of different things, and he really puts it through a lot of different of tests, like through the lens tests and stuff like that, so you can see what you're actually going to get. So yeah, he has a lot of knowledge and has used a lot of different headsets.
All right, pretty cool. David, this next one, Tony Gross sent in when he was over perusing all his Kickstarters, and he sent us this Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's the EM Power. It's an all-in-one motion rig. So that's basically already ready to go. I glanced through the video. It's tubular. And when Brian, if you can take a look through here, when you see the actuators, it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of travel. That was kind of the first thing that I noticed, that it seemed pretty minimal.
Yeah, I did too. And they're not very beefy looking. I don't know if that makes a huge difference, because it's a pretty big platform that it's sitting on there. But yeah, it didn't look like a whole lot of travel on those. It'll give you a feel for movement, but it's not going to throw you around a whole lot if that's what you're looking for.
And I guess this is a fundraiser, so we don't have a price or anything yet. But they set a 10,000 go for their Kickstarter, and they've hit 54K. So I think they hit their goal.
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to do motion and all that, I mean, are you going to pick a tubular rig? I don't know. Maybe.
I just don't think we favor the tubular rigs, because they just don't offer the advantages that you get from most of the other rigs, especially the 8020s. But even some of the wooden rigs seem to have more versatility than the tubular ones.
Adjustability, the ability to make adjustments and add stuff on. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, this to me seems like more like a made for consoles than even computers. Just because the console, computer racing gives you so much more flexibility with peripherals, and that's where you start really losing out on rigs that don't have the customizability that like 80/20s do. And
But go ahead.
I was going to say another thing is the monitor looks like it's a little too far away as well, and no ability for triples as far as I can see.
And
And stationary.
yeah, and if you watch the promo video, even it looks to be marketed to the console gamer, which is a true sim race.
All right, next up, I found this race flag LED display, and it's from raceboxsimracing.com. They offer a simple but highly effective race flag LED display for $84. I like it because it's got that carbon fiber look. It's got almost a metal looking surround, but it might be a 3D printed. It does have a couple buttons on it and a knob as well below the actual flag. And obviously the flag LED will flash yellow on caution and green on go and checker and so forth. And that's the idea. This has a look to it that I kind of like, and if you mount that somewhere on the rig just for look, I've always kind of been against the iFlag and stuff just because they look so 3D printed. This one doesn't.
Yeah, I kind of like this, and this is something I could even use because it'll let people know around me when I'm in a caution. Like if I tell my wife and I'm racing in VR, and I was like, don't interrupt me if it's green. You can interrupt me, tap me on the shoulder if it's yellow, but if it's green, leave me alone.
That'd be perfect for that.
Mike needs one of those on his door to the room.
Exactly. Just get a
Stay
really
out.
really long USB cord, post it on the door outside the.
Actually, that's what when you know how in studios, when you're filming,
Yeah.
you have the red light that kicks on whenever they're filming. He just needs one
Yeah.
of those spinning red lights and the little buzzer that goes off that just says
That's awesome.
Stay the F out.
Like they have on air on studio shows and stuff like that. On air, do not disturb.
That kind
But
of
yeah,
stuff
so
can be done.
yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, I think it's a really cool little device. It's not going to break the bank by any means, but um, it'll just definitely get the job done. And I looked on the website. It's got like a lot of different colors that it offers. Almost tons of different colors that you can program it for. I think it runs through SimHub as well. So if you have SimHub for something else, if not, it's a free program, so you can use that.
I would say it's the best looking iFlag I've seen yet. Just because of the way it's enclosed and whatnot. Okay, one more, Brian. We got a wheel emulator.
Yeah, this was basically on a YouTube channel from Teggles Does Sim Racing. That's the name of his YouTube channel. TEQQLES, Teckles. So he breaks down the SRM, which is a sim racing manufacturer. It's a Fanatec wheel emulator. So you can use this on your Fanatec device. It's got the quick release that would go into your direct drive wheel. Even the CSW 2.5 would work with that too. But it allows you to use pretty much any USB based rim to go on your Fanatec wheelbase. So it's got two different patterns for different wheel rims, so it should cover just about any of them. So it's a pretty cool little item. I think I saw that it was like under 100 British pounds. So it's certainly a lot less than the podium hub that Fanatec offers. But this thing lets
This
you
is just a
use.
clone of that, right?
It's really similar, but it lets you use other manufacturer wheels with it. That's the deal, I think, right?
But the only thing I have wrong with this is the title. Emulator's really more of a software thing. This is an adapter. It's kind of a universal adapter for rims onto a Fanatec wheel, right?
Well, doesn't Fanatec have to make some kind of connection between the hub and the base before it allows it to work? And so that maybe that's what the emulator part is about. It's emulating that connection.
I think the emulator is, if you just had a hub on there that snapped onto any USB wheel, you're not going to get like force feedback and stuff. Well, this lets you still get the force feedback feels from the Fanatec wheelbase, and lets you use a different rim on top of it. So I think that's where the emulator part comes from. I also looked around when I was researching this product. This is also on Sim Racing Garage. Barry did a review on this as well, and he had good reviews about it as well. So um, it's really for something if you have a special wheel you really like that's a USB wheel that you got to plug directly into your computer. And still, you want to use it on a Fanatec and still get force feedback. That's what this product will do. Obviously, if you have Fanatec wheels already, this product is not necessary. But yeah, so not a bad little deal there.
I see. Let's talk results. NASCAR iRacing Series. We're getting down to the end, boys. Let's finish up last week. Boy, what a rough week. Friday Open, I was wrecked out. I was just riding on the outside behind somebody, and the guy on the inside just comes right up into me and puts us both in the wall. Done deal. Tony Rochette, P33. Car came up from the grass. He hit a dump that was on the front stretch apron and right into my drive side door, killing my car. Thanks, asshat. Kyle, you said PF idiot drivers.
All right, so we're going just a small rant here. You're going to get the gist of how my race went. Rant alert. Lap 1, doored by a driver who thinks it's better to speed up and gain positions instead of being cautious and avoiding other drivers during a wreck. What an idiot. Lap, who cares? Doored by a guy who got doored and then put in the grass and decided to stay in the gas and then loses it, just slams up into me. Listen, everyone, hammering down while out of control in the grass will never end well. What an idiot. Rant over.
This concludes our test of the rant warning system.
Not yet. I forgot to put it in, but I raced Friday night as well, and I got a P33 after getting destroyed fairly early. And yeah, just terrible racing. It was not good.
Except for David, you got to win.
Slump? What slump? Well, we'll talk more about that later. This was the most stolen of stolen wins ever. Because here's what happened. I was running good. I was running in the top 5 most of the second half of the race as the set kind of came in. However, we have a caution with about 15 to go. I pit and jump from 3rd to 2nd on the pit. iRacing glitches out and gives me the inside and does not tell me to stay behind the race leader. So I'm like, I got race control. I'm going to take it. And I gun it as soon as the pace car's out and jump to a 1-second lead because the outside guy thought he still had race control. But we still had a caution. So he got to get all that distance right back. And on a green-white checkered, we re-racked it. I had another good start, even though he knew I had the lead that time. And it was just enough to stay about less than a car length ahead on the finish. But especially after being in the slump, I was taking every gift that iRacing gave me. And so it was exciting. And at the same time, I knew it was stolen. So, but considering how many times things have been taken away in a similar fashion, take them when you get them.
And what was your mood there, David? I didn't get a sense of excitement, or I just won the NIS, or any of that.
I think it was tempered because I understood how much of a steal it was.
I see. Well, a win is a win is a win. Congratulations. Let's move to Sunday Open, P20, Tom Dreiling. One caution, I made a mistake. I rochetted the pit stop and sped down pit road. 40-second penalty. I fell 2 laps down. I could only work my way back to 20th, on to Martinsville. David, what'd you get?
It was the slump just kicked right back in after this. Right, the same BS. There were 3 guys, and the guy in the middle couldn't hold a lane on like lap 5, and just punched me up into the wall. Race over.
Okay. Sunday fixed. I was wrecked out again. Now, I want to point out this was 4 races in a row. I was wrecked out at Kansas in all 4 attempts, 3 in open, 1 in fixed, and I never finished a race. I lost 400 I rating in 1 week.
Also,
I was good for a while in this race. I was missing all the big wrecks completely. I had worked my way all the way to the lead. Eventually, we had a deal where I was the first on tires with 9 in front who had stayed out. I took it 3 wide, and the guy was clueless and just came right up into us. And then after that, I was just riding around, and I got destroyed again by a guy loose coming down into the bottom lane. And yeah.
I was going to jump in here. We skipped over Tom, who did take a P20 in the open race that morning.
I did read that off.
Oh, you did? Would you do read that one before me?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I was off in La La Land then.
And then, Brian, you ran with me P21.
Yeah, I was really excited. I got all the way to the green-white checker finish before I got wrecked out. So, yeah, it was really nice to get that far into the race before getting destroyed by somebody being stupid. So I was really excited to get there. I lost a bunch of points as well as far as I rating. Didn't have a whole lot to give up, but I lost probably almost 100 points in 2 races.
Tough week for us as a team. Let's talk another tough week. Martinsville. David.
A guy in the middle of the pack at Martinsville spins out, no chance to avoid. 2.5 minutes of damage to the front of the engine. I take a ton of tape off. There's so many cautions. I get it all fixed, and I've got about 1920 RPMs, and I'm kind of running fast again, even at the 1920. I climb back up to 12th, fighting back, getting all that damage fixed, and having to get the lucky dog once. And on about lap 200, iRacing just says, "Congratulations on all that work. We're going to blow your engine up now."
Yeah, getting your hopes up, and then boom.
Literally, boom.
I had a tough race. I was wrecked out. I had a perfect car and a pretty good race run. I was top 5. I was right up until about 40 to go. And then at that point, some guy dive bombing like crazy. I mean, just from way back, took me out. It was bad. I mean, I couldn't steer the car, but there was no meatball. But I was so mad. And there was only like 40 left to go, and I'm thinking it's a half mile. I can just like stay on the end of the lead lap maybe and get a finish. I just want to finish. So I stayed out with the damage, and that was a major mistake. I could not drive the car. I went into the first corner, and it slammed into the wall. I went into the next corner, and it did the same thing. So then I was trying to get to pit road, and I hit 2 guys, basically wrecked 2 guys trying to get to pit road and caused another caution. I apologize to those guys. I didn't mean to. I basically couldn't steer the car. It's like one of those things where it wouldn't turn to the right at all, and you'd have to crank the wheel to the left just to get it to turn left. And in hindsight, I should have parked it. I should have not even tried. And I wish, they would give a meatball, but it's that tore up. I mean, I should have had a meatball. Kyle, you were in that race with me, P13.
Oh, yeah. What can I say? P13, and it was just nothing but pace laps. That's all it was. It wasn't even much of a race. Had a couple good runs, but it was my one and done for the week for Martinsville. So everyone else enjoy.
That I ran today, Thursday Open, DQ'd out. Too many incidents. What's interesting is Wednesday night I only had like 4 incidents, I think, total. But in this race, I got a bunch and, different incidents where I didn't even get damage. It's like they barely touch you from behind, and then he gets wrecked by somebody else, and then they wreck. And I had nothing to do with it, but I still get 4X. And that's kind of how my incidents played out throughout the race. But I got the pass-through penalty. I was actually made up some good on my track position after the pass-through. I got a wave around, a lucky dog, back on the lead lap, moved my way back up, and just got too many incidents. And got DQ'd out with 25 incidents. I had a top 10 going. It was top split. There were actually only 2 splits for that race. All right, Fast Track Sim Racing League, P2, David.
Do what? I seem to have a memory block on this one. No, I don't. This has got to be the worst feeling loss ever, man. Take a pass for the lead late, and then on the last turn 1, I tap the apron. Get just upset enough for Tyler to catch me and get around me and steal the win. It was one of those where I just got up and left and didn't say much afterwards. I just failed to execute and coughed one away. It's interesting. I remember listening to on a sports podcast recently that they did a study on the facial expressions of Olympic silver medalists versus Olympic bronze medalists, and on average, the bronze medalist would look happier than the silver medalist. And I think we lost Mike's headphones, so I'll pick up the rest. Yeah, Mike's headphones just went out, so that's what I did. Let's see, I've got to get back up on the script.
Yeah, so looks like Greg got a P8 in the Fast Track Sim Racing League. Do you remember anything about his race, Dave?
Yeah, he tried a different set and just didn't. It started getting upset on him. He was running really fast with us early on. Then as we started getting to the deeper runs and the track got worn in, it wore out a little. All right, and then Mike, he said P10, he hit the wall, and just bad on old tires. Just didn't have a great race. And that was all of us that made it. It was a smaller field, just like the NIS was smaller. So looking at hosted.
Hey, I'm back. You got me?
There you go. Yeah, we got you. We're on to
Okay,
hosted.
I'm having headset problems. Yeah, let's talk hosted. I ran Formula V at Bristol. 38 cars, started dead last. That was a blast. And then
was that dirt?
I don't know where I finished on that one.
Was that dirt or was that asphalt for that?
No, that was asphalt. It was pretty fun. Then this one was a blast. Gen 5 at the Old Charlotte. P3 after starting from the back. Love the horsepower of that car. I still think that's one of the funnest NASCAR style cars on the service. Chris McGuire hosted up Holden and the Falcons at Michigan, which is a fabulous combination. I ran that 2 different nights when he hosted that up. And then another neat combination was Radicals at Southern National.
Where do you find these? Because I can never find these kind of races. I've been wanting to.
Well, this at night, usually when the East Coast guys are off the service, is usually when these Canadians, this guy's Canadian, and him and his friends, and they usually are drinking when they put up these races, and they just do them one after another.
No better idea comes from whenever you're drinking.
I do know after we finish up NIS, one of these Friday nights, we're going to do the that crazy. We came up with a crazy Tony combination. I think what was it going to be? The Formula V and the MX5, like all of the rookie cars from all the different series running at one track at the same time. It'd be fun. The weird combinations are interesting. Just because there's not only are they fun, there's less pressure in that as well. It's not, you're not expected to necessarily nail it.
Okay, how about OBRL ARCA, Brian, P17?
Yeah, so ARCA Monday night was at New Hampshire, and I'll put it as succinctly as possible. I sucked. There's really no other way to describe it. I could not find speed. I could not save tires. I was just terrible. Now, part of it was because before the race started, I usually like do a practice session on my own for like about an hour before the race starts, and I wasn't able to do it because there was a nasty little thunderstorm that came through, and I was scared to fire it up during all the lightning and stuff. But so I don't know how much practice I would have needed to get better, but it was a way more than what I did. So congratulations, Steve Thompson. He won this race on a one tire stop at a 130 lap race at New Hampshire, and he was just ridiculous. I mean, he was still going fast, saving tires, saving fuel, and he just walked away with that race.
Well done. He also wins the OBRL Aftermath Truck Series. Steve Thompson the winner, Josh Robinson second, Eddie Jones third.
And that was at Martinsville as well.
Okay, Kyle, what about the iRacing IROC Challenge Series Season 4?
Alrighty, so tonight is our final practice race at Hotlanta before we start off the season. Of course, first race will not be a points race. It'll be the shootout at Daytona, but it's going to be the initial kickoff to the season. So one set kicks off next Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on PTM Racing on Facebook. That's where it's going to be broadcasted at. You can catch us there to catch the shootout and then catch all 27 races after that. But that's about where we stand right now. We're just waiting to get this week over with so we can start next week.
Okay, and then later tonight, I'm going to be running the Ultimate Conquest Racing League Man Cave After Dark Truck Series. And so we're kicking that off tonight. If you're interested, hit up Scott Bolster, and he's the admin over there, and he'll get you hooked up. We're trying to get enough people to make it a fun event, so come out and race late Thursday night with us. Okay, let's get into final thoughts. Brian McCubbin.
A couple quick little things here. First of all, Friday night in the Open NIS session, we had a lot of Tifosi guys were in that session that night, and it was really cool having everybody there together and chatting and racing and having fun. We all know the races didn't turn out that great except for David, but it was so cool to have everybody on there. I can't wait for more of that. Second is I'm these next. I hate to beat this dead horse, but this next gen car, the racing at Kentucky is going to be. I fear is going to be even more indicative of how the next gen races are going to be. With the low horsepower, the high downforce, these mile-and-a-half intermediate tracks are just going to be everybody bunched up together. I understand from a fan's point of view, watching the real race drivers, it's fun to watch, but we're not professional drivers, especially down in the 1900 split like I'm at. And people make mistakes way too often when they're bunched up like that. And I'm just afraid that this car is going to lend to even more of that type of racing and more issues. And it's just going to take the fun out of NIS. I'm scared of that. I really am. So I'm certainly going to give it a chance next year when the next gen car comes out. But I'm really nervous about how these races are going to go.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there, man. I just don't understand why they go that route. All we've talked about, and not just us, but some of the real racing podcasts too have talked about, is how bad, after you get the restart done, you can't pass in those cars because there's not enough horsepower, and they run such a higher corner speed that they have to run harder tires, or they will have major tire failure issues going 170 miles an hour. Goodyear doesn't want that, so they're going to run a harder tire because the corner speed's so high. And just when you're not having to get off the throttle, passing isn't a thing. And I don't think it provides a good real racing product either. Going on with that, I guess would be part of my final thoughts. But also my other final thought is I've got my custom profile in to build my little shelf on the back of my rig. I made a little mistake when I did my measurements and forgot to account for the side pillars that hold the wheel being sitting on the outside of the base frame instead of on top. So I ordered the wrong size plank shelf to go with it. So I'm having to come down. I don't want to wait another 40 days. So I'm trying to hunt down just a sheet metal somewhere, or I don't want to go wood because I think it would look stupid on the, but that may be in the route I end up going. Cut a plank of wood and turn that into my shelf and paint it something.
Measure twice, cut once. All right, Kyle Pendergraph, your final thoughts.
Well, one of my final thoughts is Mike, you look silly all bent over like that. But no, my final thought is actually, I don't know if anybody's been keeping up with the repave of Atlanta. They've been posting a lot on YouTube here the last couple of days with their updates, and I'm actually getting kind of excited for it. I was kind of skeptical with it, with the whole banking change, but it actually looks like it's going to be pretty fun. Now with the next gen car, I don't know. Like I'm kind of 50-50 on that, so it's not really my cup of tea to see them race like they're, they want it to be, or how that's going to look like it's going to be. But maybe that'll change over the next couple of years. And then last final thought is I just upgraded to an SSD M.2 hard drive, so I've been spending the day stressing over getting everything switched over and installed. And I think I finally finished it about 15 minutes ago. So cross my fingers it all works.
Yeah, that's the best hard drive to have, basically, the fastest kind, right?
Yeah, well, see, and what really pushed me to get it was when we were doing our NIS races, and you all would be like, "Oh yeah, Kyle, you're in my split," and I'm like, "Oh, I am. I'm not even loaded in yet." So I got to keep up with them.
All right, well done on the re-image there. My final thoughts, finishing up the rig. I got last weekend a replacement mount for the iPhone from that company, TAC Form. I cannot recommend enough this cell phone holder. Now, it was $60, but it's metal. It's not plastic. It's fully adjustable. It mounts to 80/20, and it's just perfect. I can't, even though I spent a lot of money on it, I'm really happy with the result. The other thing is this afternoon that came in from Amazon is that blue insert that you put into the T-slot to stop dust from collecting. I bought 6 packages of that at about $70. And right before the show, I finished cutting the pieces and putting them all into the slots. I actually filled almost all the slots, at least the ones that are visible from the outside. I could probably use maybe one more package to kind of do a few more little spots, but pretty much I'm done with that. The last thing is the drink holder or the cup holder. It's been on order. It hasn't shipped. And that is the final piece. I actually have no intention of buying anything else besides the cup holder. So probably going to work on some nice glamour shots tonight of the rig with some lighting. Now that I've finished with the blue strips, I did a nice TikTok video. The guys were impressed with of the rig. It came out pretty good. So check out my TikTok. And yeah, I'm just loving the cockpit, man. I love that I can undo the brakes on the casters and move it. Every time I race, I put it in a different part of the room. I don't know why. I guess because I can. But it's just super comfortable to race in, and really glad that I took the step to go ahead and build it. So with that, hey, we'll see you on the track later.